a keynote speaker and coach who offers vibrant, insightful, and functional observations to help financial professionals grow their skills and business. That is Frank Maselli, a best-selling author and award-winning speaker, and he is here with your host, Brad Swineheart. So, Brad, tell us more about Frank.
Frank A. Hey, buddy. It is so good to be chatting with you again.
Thank you. You too. It's been a while.
Man, yeah, we've hung out for 5 or 6 years now.
Amazing.
Learning from everything. I tell you, listeners here, I've seen Frank speak and do coaching easily more than a dozen times. And most of those were the same presentation. And every single time I learned something and I took more away. And I laughed my ass off because Frank is the funniest dude you've ever seen. And I really appreciate you being on the show, man.
Thank you. No, it's a pleasure to be back with you. I love doing this. So happy to do it.
So you wrote, I always tell people, you wrote the book, right? The book on seminars when it comes to being a financial advisor, what you should do and why.
I don't know if it's the book. It is. It's one of a few books, but it's a pretty good one.
No, it's the book. Yeah.
Well, I'll take that. That's great. No, it's been around a while. It's in 4th edition. I'm doing the 5th edition as we speak. So getting ready to launch some new stuff. Pretty exciting.
And let's rewind a little bit. Before you were this expert on helping advisors actually know what the heck a presentation is, you were an advisor.
Sure.
So how did you get your start?
Pure stupidity and desperation. No. Honest to God. I spent the first year of my life as an advisor doing what a lot of advisors do, which was cold calling. And I hated every minute of it. I thought it was the stupidest possible marketing thing in the world. And I was struggling. I mean, I did well, but I didn't like it. I really wasn't having a good time.
Wait, you didn't like cold calling, Frank? That's so bizarre. God. Everybody loves it.
Yeah. Find me 5 people who truly love cold calling. I think that'd be very hard. But honestly, I got to give props to a guy. His name is Michael Kahn, and he was a branch manager. He was my first branch manager. I was a wirehouse guy with a firm called Dean Witter. Mike called me into his office. He saw that I was struggling. He said, look, you did really well, but I don't think you're happy. I said, Mike, I hate this. I can't stand this. I really don't enjoy what I'm doing. And I think I'm going to leave the business. I had been an Army officer. I had done a few other things. So I figured I had a career someplace. And he said, look, you're too good to leave. I want you to try something. Will you try it? I said, I'll try anything. He says, I want you to try seminars. I think you'd be really good at seminars. I said, I'll give it a shot. What the hell? And I did my first seminar. I got 30 people in the room. I opened 15 new accounts. And I said, oh my God, this is hysterically fun. And it works. It works like crazy. And I did 4,000 public seminars. I was doing 7 seminars a week.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a long-winded answer to your question, but yes, I've been doing these a long time and I love doing them more than anything in the world. So
4,000 in-person seminars.
At least. Yeah.
And you just loved it, didn't you? If you're doing it 7 days a week, that's something that you like to do.
I was doing them Sunday mornings. I was doing brunches. I was doing, I would do a speaker circuit, which something, nobody does anymore. But if 2 people gathered in a coat closet, I would come see you. I'd speak to you, so I was doing clubs and organizations. It was fantastic. A lot of fun.
So fast forward to today, you've worked with WhiteGlove for, 5-6 years now, helping our advisors get better at seminars. You work with other advisors, you're writing books, you're still doing the speaker circuit, right? But now you're getting in front of big groups of advisors, helping them. What do you think the key, and there's probably more than one, but what do you think the key is to having a seminar and have it be successful?
The key hasn't really changed. I think it's modified to the degree that we're now doing more virtual work, and virtual is a very different animal. But I think the fundamentals of presenting and of communicating are the same. And that to me is the emotion that the speaker, that the presenter is able to evoke in the minds of the audience. And that comes from theater. I mean, I did a lot of theater, and in theater, what is theater? Theater is a bunch of people on a stage trying to get a room full of strangers to feel something, and theater, you've got a great script, obviously, Hamilton, you get all excited, but when you're talking about taxes or you're talking about, estate planning, where's the passion? Where's the excitement? How do you get that audience fired up? And the answer is you've got to find it and you've got to deliver it, because the audience doesn't understand the finances. You could give the most technically gifted presentation in the world, and they won't understand 95% of what you said. What they will understand is how they feel when they listen to you. And do they trust you? Do they believe in you? Do they think that you can solve their problem? And do they want to meet with you? So the key to me is always emotion. And the book is, the 9 critical emotions, obviously. But it's hard. It's very hard. Webinars are doubly, triply difficult from an emotional standpoint, because you're not there. You can't sense the room. So you have to really do some very special things for a webinar. But it's all about emotion, I think, Brad. And you know that. You speak a lot too. So I'm guessing you figured this out as well.
I will say, I'm one of the presenters that adapted to webinars because we had to, right? Like when I was probably doing 100 in-person speaking gigs between 2019 and 2020 and very end of 2018, right? I was just hitting the road hard. And then, 2020 went right to zero, and we actually held a webinar with advisors on it. There's probably 400 or 500 advisors on it. And we were announcing that, hey, WhiteGlove offers webinars now. And we had a total tech failure and the sound stopped working. So it's like, literally we're a seminar company doing webinars and we can't even do our own webinar. Right. So it was like this, this, I understand, like, adapting to webinars. So it was so, like, for me, it was tough, right? Because you're 100% right. You don't have the audience. You don't know if they're laughing at your jokes or if they're bored out of their mind, if they got their arms crossed and they're sitting back in their seats. You don't know, right? You just have to kind of fake it till you make it with webinars. And, it takes adapting. And I talk to a lot of advisors now about it. And I'm saying, and I always tell them, like, look, let's just be honest real quick. Like, you weren't very good at seminars when you first did them either. So don't get too hard on yourself that you're not great at webinars.
Right.
You mentioned one thing, like, if you give an awesome technical presentation and, how that makes that person feel. And what I've always experienced, like, if I'm sitting in an audience and that person is going super in depth about all of these things, one of two things is going to happen to me personally. One, I'm going to get bored, right? I might get bored. I might pop on the old, little act like a screenager here and just sit on this thing. Or I'm going to feel dumb because I don't understand what the heck he's talking about. Now I'm like, well, I don't want to meet this guy because now I feel dumb and I don't want to ask my questions and sound like an idiot in front of somebody. And, not that I have a giant ego on me, but I'm a normal human being. I don't like to appear uneducated. So how would you, as an advisor, right? I think that we live in this world of acronyms and, different types of nuances that come to the mass complex financial world. Like, how do you get that message across that, hey, I can help you, without either boring them or making them feel stupid?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. Obviously, that's the heart of the presentation process. I mean, you've got to break down the entire discussion. First of all, what's the point of you being up in front of the room? What's the core message that you're trying to deliver? I call it the MIT, the MIT, the most important thing that you're trying to get that audience to feel for the event that you're delivering. So if I'm doing a tax seminar, okay, let's pick something that's extremely boring, taxes. What's the most important thing that I want the audience to know? And I'll try to break that down into 3 pieces. First of all, taxes suck. And basically, this is what I want them saying to themselves as they're driving away or as they're turning off the screen and walking to dinner or whatever. Taxes suck, number 1. Number 2, taxes are likely, and I say for the first time in history, and I think this is true, and I make the case for them, taxes are likely to go up in retirement. What the hell's that all about? That's never happened before. So taxes suck, and they're going to suck worse pretty soon. And number 3, you can do something about it. And wealthy people do this all the time. Why is it that the wealthiest people in the world don't pay taxes? Well, because they know some of the stuff that I'm about to show you tonight. And that's where you have some fun. Now the audience, I mean, God, they're engaged. You've given them the structure. Once you give them the structure and the most important things that they need to know, then you can build in and fill in with facts and stats and graphs and charts. And God knows we have way too much of that stuff in this business. But at the end of that workshop, they walk out and they go, oh, yeah, taxes suck. Taxes are going up. And damn, I better do something about it. So that's it. That's what they remember. And it's really it's simple, but it's not simple. You know what I mean? It's simple to say. It's not necessarily simple to do all the time, but that's what we try to do.
Well, one of the things that I've heard you say quite often, and I stole it from you, and now I say it too, is, during that presentation, you create the dragon, right? Like you have to define it, right? Here's the sharp teeth. Here's the fire that comes out here. Here's all the scales that are impenetrable by arrows. Like you create that dragon and make them like understand like this giant, the tax train or, the time bomb or whatever, but you have this giant looming thing that could hurt your retirement, and that's taxes. And once you kind of define it and they start saying, okay, well, I know taxes are bad, but now I understand, why I should be so, not necessarily afraid, but so concerned. And then you slay the dragon, right? That's what you always tell me, because you have to slay it because people are already scared, right? I don't know. You can't hop on social media without getting scared, I think by design from some of the publishers out there. But can you talk about that a little bit? Like, how do you really formulate that? And then what do you do about that innate fear that they already have?
It's a great question. And they're coming to the workshop because they're scared. Years ago, we used to have to scare people at a workshop. I don't think that's ethical anymore. I really don't, because now you're just piling on. People who are coming to a workshop, whether they realize it consciously or not, they have a fear. There's a certain fear that's driving them there. There's a concern. We'll call it a concern. And the create the dragon part is to make them see what the problem is and how that problem is going to affect them. That's the create the dragon. But the slay the dragon, that becomes the metaphor for the relationship. And if they can walk out or turn off your webinar and say, damn, this is a problem, and this guy seems to really understand it, and I think he's got the right arrows to solve this problem, that's all you can do. That's the best you can hope for. So slaying the dragon, and I'll tell you, one of the mistakes I see a lot of advisors make, and you didn't ask this, but I'm going to anticipate that you would have asked this. One of the big mistakes a lot of advisors are making right now is they give problem, and then they give product as the solution. And that's the worst possible thing to do. You should never even mention product in a workshop. Product is the last thing. I'm the solution. Working with an advisor is the solution. Working with a professional is the solution. But if they don't solve the problem, there's no reason to come see you. Nobody sets an appointment if they don't think you can solve their problem. So creating the dragon, very critical. Slaying the dragon, even better. And that's the metaphor for the relationship. And that's why people will bond with you.
I love that so much. And what do you think, there's the I think of it, it's kind of like an old school mentality of like a secret sauce, right? Like, oh, come me, I can only I can do X, Y, and Z, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but if you meet with me, we'll be able to do whatever. Some advisors think like, well, if I tell them everything, they're going to go do it on their own. And I don't want to do that. I want them to come to me for the solution. Like, where's that happy medium? Or is that even a concern anymore that someone's going to go do it themselves?
That's a great question. I think a lot of advisors fear that. And I hear this all the time. I don't want to give them too much. I don't want to give away everything because then they'll take my ideas. They'll go someplace else. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. I just wrote a piece on the fever model. And one of the stories I tell in there is about a carpenter. I'll tell it very briefly. I don't want to take too much time. I had a carpenter come to the house. He was working on some other stuff. And I asked him a question about this chop saw. I don't know if you've seen one of these chop saws. I love these things. I don't know how to use it, but I wanted to buy one. And I said, should I get a chop saw? I want to do this thing. He gave me this detailed explanation. He drew the drawing. He told me what to spend. He did everything to help me solve my own problem and do my own project. He told me everything that I needed to know. So I hired him. And the question then is, wait a minute. He gave you all that information. And he even said this to me. I told you everything you need to know. And I said, yeah, what you told me is that I need a professional. So I give away at workshops everything. I tell them everything. And the more confidence that gives them the sense that I have tremendous confidence, number one, because I'm not attaching strings to every single, oh, you got to come see me if you want to know the truth. No, none of that. I give them everything. And then they walk out and they go, this guy really knows his stuff. Sounded pretty complicated. Do you want to try it ourselves? No, let's hire him. Let's hire him. That's what we want. That's what they want. They want you. They don't want ideas. They don't want information. And you'll hear people say, oh, I just came for information. No, they didn't. They came because they were looking for an advisor. And if they say that to you, that means you didn't inspire them. You didn't connect with them. They're lying to you. They were looking for love. You didn't give them love. They're looking for someplace else. So that's a very insightful point, though, Brad. You're 100% right. I think so. Very, very powerful.
And I think too, I talk to a lot of advisors, and they say their least favorite clients, let's maybe say it in a nice way, their least favorite clients to work with are the do-it-yourselfers, right? Because they're just constantly second guessing. They're not, they want to do everything themselves. So I almost think too, if you're giving a seminar and you say, hey, here's all the tools, here's the blueprint, here's what you do, that real do-it-yourselfer is going to take that and leave, and you don't want to deal with them anyway, right? Exactly. You want that, to quote Frank, you want the person that's going to get in the rowboat, right? They're not going to fight you when you're handing out the paddle there. One interesting thing you mentioned, one of the common objections that people will hear is, I'm just here for the info. Yeah. What other common objections do you think people giving seminars run into, and how the heck do you get past some of those? I know the first one off the top of my head is, well, I don't have any money. That's what we always talk to advisors about is like, look, if you walk out of a seminar and you come to me and you say, hey, those people didn't have any money, my first question is, well, one, how do you know? Like, are you asking them in front of everybody? And two, I always say, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I always say, look, if they flat out say to you, look, I don't have any money, they're telling you one thing, and it doesn't have anything to do with their finances. It has something to do with, I don't want you calling me. Like, that's what they're really saying. Bingo. So what do you think? How would you get past that, that objection? I don't have any money. I don't have any investable assets. Just shopping, right? Just browsing. Right. Well, first thing the advisor needs to understand is that people who don't come to workshops who don't have money, people without money don't come to workshops. It's that simple. They all have money. And if they say that to you, it's the only thing they can say that guarantees you will not follow up with them. So what they really should be saying to you is, listen, I came, I've got a lot of money, I've got a lot of problems, but you're not my guy. You just turned me off. I didn't like you. You made me angry. You confused the hell out of me, and we're going someplace else. So I have no money. Leave me the hell alone. That's basically the paragraph that you don't get to see. Okay. That's in between those two lines, right? Exactly. No money. Nobody says right here. Yeah. So how do you deal with that as the advisor? Well, the first thing is, I don't accept it. Okay. If somebody says to me, I don't have any money, I'd say, listen, of course you have money. Of course you do. I understand. People without money don't come to workshop. And I would say this to them. Frankly, I would deal with it long before that. But if you ask me how I handle the objection, so I'd say, of course you have money. Please listen to me. If I'm not your guy, I understand. I'm obnoxious. I'm arrogant. I probably pissed you off tonight. I really apologize. And that's okay. If I'm not the advisor for you, please get help from a professional. And so I take it away from, you must get in my lifeboat, to you must get in a lifeboat. We're trying to save you. Of course you have money. I know you have money. Saying you don't is the only thing you can say to me. I understand that. Please get in somebody's lifeboat because you need help. That's your last chance, I think, to disarm them and to maybe take some of the dislike that they feel for you away. And then the follow-up becomes critical because, and I think you know this, I never let people go who've come to my workshop. I will drip on you till the rapture, okay? Forever and ever, basically. Because you never know what changes. And they may think that they didn't like you, but over time, that softens and something changes in their life. They'll remember you. I drip very positively over a long period of time.
all value, no sales stuff. And then I get them eventually. I hate to say it, but I get you. I'll get you eventually.
I love that. And you're right, because some of the things that may be, the reason they don't like you at the seminars, because you're saying something that's true and they don't, they're not ready to hear it yet. Right.
Mm-hmm.
They may not want to hear that, hey, you're not set up for retirement the way you really should be. And now they're offended by that because they're a do-it-yourselfer, or because they work with their cousin and he's got them all set up perfectly and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, they may not want a meeting right away, but yeah, in 2 years when something else happens, right? I always say that there's two ways to pick up a client. One is to stand in front of them or talk to them and turn that light bulb on, right? To say, hey, you need me and this is why. And they're like, oh, illuminate. Yeah, that's great. I absolutely need you. And that's, salespeople find that the warm and fuzzies, right? When someone says, oh, please let me do business with you, please. Right. We love those people. And then the people that walk out like, nah, I'm not really interested in what you have. We get sad about that. For the most confident salesperson and speaker in the world, you get sad when people walk out and they don't care what you had, care what you had to say.
Sure.
My thought is there's two ways to do it, right? You either turn that light bulb on, which you're going to get some people immediately. And the other way is to be there, right? When that light bulb turns on for themselves and they're like, oh gosh, now I need this. And, oh yeah, that's right. I heard Brad say that 2 years ago, and now he's been in my face for 2 full years. Now I'm ready to talk to him. Let's talk a little bit about, so we get to the end of the seminar and someone's like, oh, I'm just here for information. I don't have any money. I don't like you. How do you back that up into the actual seminar and get the right people to raise their hand and start working with you? How do you cause that, that chain of effects that says, oh yeah, you know what, I do need that help, but also, kind of proactively, filter is probably the wrong word, but proactively get the people in the audience that you need to help, get them to come say, yes, I want to work with you, Frank.
That's a very interesting question. Part of the way that I would do that is some of the stories that I would tell. And this is going to sound manipulative, and maybe it is a little bit, but I tell stories and I kind of modify the stories that I'm telling on the spot to fit what I see in the room. Now, again, on a webinar, impossible to do that. So you have to make certain assumptions. Okay. So I'll try to make my stories fairly generic and broad enough so that many people in that audience can feel connected to that story. So stories are a very powerful way to get audiences to say, yeah, I see myself in that role, and I have that same problem that person that he's describing had. And yeah, I can feel that connection now. So that's a very good way, number one. Number two is I generally assume that everybody in the room needs help. I go into the workshop process with that assumption in mind. And so I'm ready for 100% appointment ratio. I don't screen audiences. A lot of advisors, and I hate to say this, but a lot of advisors make visual assessments in a live workshop. You can't do this webinar, but in a live workshop, they'll look at the audience and go, no money, no money, no money, yes money, maybe money. Very, very bad thing to do. When I was working as an advisor many years ago, one of the lessons we learned was called the Yankee Mentality. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
No, tell me. Now I'm intrigued.
The Yankee and I started in the Northeast, so this is prevalent, probably more so in the Northeast than other parts of the country. But there's something called the Yankee mentality. The wealthiest person in the room is the one who looks the bummiest, drove in this plainest car. Okay, doesn't have the Rolex, doesn't have the nice clothes, just looks like a dreg of humanity. That's the multimillionaire in the room. Do not make assumptions based on physicality, on any physical observation you can use. So I think that's a big mistake that a lot of advisors make, and there are many ways to do that. I'm guessing in other parts of the country, this may not be true, perhaps, but don't make any assumptions about the audience except that they all have money and they all need your help. That's why they came, because you're not doing the steak dinners. I mean, if you, and I know WhiteGlove, you guys still do the dinner stuff, right? I mean, you would support that, or probably not, though.
No, we do. We still, if an advisor feels most comfortable with the steak and the cheesecake time, I always say cheesecake time where you can schmooze with them a little bit and, sit down at the table and all of that. We'll absolutely do it. But most advisors that work with us, it's probably about 95% of our events. There's no food. They're there just to learn.
Yeah. So who the hell's coming to learn without a steak dinner unless they have a need? I mean, the answer is nobody. I think we've beaten this up pretty much, but I do miss the cheesecake though. I used to take home a lot of cheesecake.
I know. I'm a sucker for cheesecake. That's my one dessert. I'm just like, ooh, just keep it away from me because I won't stop eating. There's never too much. What's interesting is, a million years ago, I used to work in construction sales, and, probably the most wealthy construction, business owners would come in throughout the week, and they would be in ripped up jeans, dirty sweatshirts, a ball cap on. They drive a beat up piece of junk truck. And that guy had, X millions of dollars. And every once in a while you'd see him on a Sunday cruising around in their Maserati. But I mean, yeah, if that guy sat in a seminar, unfortunately to say, most of my, a lot of advisors would say, hey, this guy's got no money. Look at his jeans are all ripped up. And I think to a certain point too, if you're going to an educational event at a library or community center, you're going to dress down a little bit. You're not wearing your suit, right? But on top of that, it's a little bit of a defense mechanism to say, hey, you know what? I don't want this guy hounding me. I'm gonna dress down. I'm gonna dress the part of person than someone that's browsing, and have the advisor go hound the guy over there in the cardigan and leave me alone.
That's
so it's another way to kind of build that wall.
Yeah, good point.
So one thing, Frank, one thing I really want to hear from you is just how do you structure a presentation? Like, what are if you had to pick 3 key points to structure your presentation? I'm brand new. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Like, what should I focus on really getting right? If I screw everything else up, but I get these 3 things right, let's say, I'm just picking the number 3. It could be 4, it could be 2. Okay. What would you tell an advisor? Make sure you do this correctly.
Well, I think you need an opening. I think everything starts within the first minute or 2 of the workshop. I think that's where you really grab the audience's attention and you send them a message that this is going to be a powerful show. This is going to be an exciting moment. And in theater, I mean, I go back to theater a lot because there's a lot of parallels. Frankly, in theater, there's an overture. What's the purpose of the overture? The overture is like, holy cow, it's every song in the show condensed. It's exciting. And then the curtain goes up. So you need an opening of some kind. You don't necessarily need the dollar bill or the other power openings that I've created, but do something within the first 2 minutes of that workshop that sends the message that this is going to be valuable and important. And boy, you're glad they're there and they're going to get a great show. That's number 1. Number 2, you need organization to the body of the delivery of the workshop. You need to deliver an organized presentation because audiences struggle to figure out where they are in the journey sometimes. Very, very difficult on a webinar, but both live and in webinar, you need some sort of structure. So I generally say, folks, I'm going to show you 3 things tonight. We're going to talk about, I like the number 3. There's a magic to the number 3. We don't get into the psychology. It could be 4, it could be 5, whatever. But I give them a low number. I don't do there's 15 things you need to know. That's too much. 3 things, 4 things you need to know. We're going to hit them really hard. When you leave here tonight, you're going to know exactly what to do. And then I think you need a good close. You bookend the seminar with a power opening and a power close. And the power close is where you bring it all together. And then you say, in not these words, but you basically say, look, you need a professional to guide you on this journey. And I've been using, you've seen it. I've been using the Harbor Pilot. I've fallen in love with this story. It's just such a great analogy for what professionals do in our industry today. I like the mountain, the up the mountain, down the mountain. I'm the Sherpa who takes you down the mountain, blah, blah, blah. I love the Harbor Pilot 10 times more than that because that's much more apt to what we do. The Harbor Pilot guides you into retirement. The journey's been 30 years on the open ocean. You didn't hit anything. You come into the harbor, you're going to hit 50 things. Now you need a specialist. I mean, basically, that's what it comes down to. The open ocean journey is very risk-free. Storms, you get, blah, 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 but you don't hit anything. As soon as you get to the harbor, there's 500 things that you're going to hit and you can sink the ship. That's why every ship needs a Harbor Pilot. I'm a retirement specialist. Let me help you. And then we've written this all up in ad nauseum. So good opening, great organization in the middle with emotions, and then, a great close. And then that's as much as you can do. What else can you do?
That's it. Yeah, you just have to be liked, right? Just liked and trusted, and show that you know something. Speak to people, not above them, all that good stuff. I know we're coming right up on time here, but maybe for the last question I'll ask you, Frank, is you, and a little bit me to a lesser degree, but you're a charismatic, fun-loving, enjoyable human being, right? Seminars for you is get me up there. I am eager. Put me on stage, boss. I'm in. And WhiteGlove does all that, right? We will put a human being on a stage where they get to talk to 20 households. What would you say to the advisor that's never done seminars, or maybe doesn't think public speaking is all it's cracked up to be? I sense a lot of frustration sometimes from advisors that are buying leads or trying to, basically do cold calling because they're just getting names and numbers from, other lead generation companies. What would you say to them to kind of ease their fears of, get on stage, it's going to work for you?
That's interesting. It's kind of hard for you and I to understand people who are afraid to get on stage, but that's the majority of humanity. It really is. The first thing I would tell an advisor is have confidence in yourself, because just the act of becoming a financial advisor, the skills that you innately have without even knowing it, put you in the top 1% of humanity in terms of your ability to communicate with other people. So you're probably a hell of a lot better than you think you are. That's number one. Number two, get some help, get some coaching. The skills necessary to become a really great presenter, virtual or live, doesn't really matter. Those skills are completely learnable. This isn't magic. None of this isn't Harry Potter land. Okay. You can learn this stuff, and you may not be able to duplicate someone else's style, which is why first thing I tell advisors is I'm not creating little mini me's out here. That's not my goal at all. It's to help you find your style. What's your best style? Okay. What makes you the most credible, believable, lovable presenter? Where's your sense of humor? How do we get humor into the equation? Humor is a very big deal. We could spend an entire day talking about humor. So that's number two. Get some help. And then, with the coaching, don't think that you're ever alone. When you work, and I'm not doing a WhiteGlove commercial here, but when you work with WhiteGlove, you're never alone. You have people with tremendous experience who exist to help you be better at what you do. I mean, the better they are, the more WhiteGlove loves it. Am I wrong? I mean, the worst thing you could have from a WhiteGlove perspective, the worst thing is an advisor who tries 2 or 3 seminars and then goes away forever because they didn't work. That sucks. That's ridiculous. And there's absolutely no need for that. So get help. If it's not me, if it's not Dan Collison, if it's not one of the other coaches, get help from the WhiteGlove people. Get you help people all the time. So don't go this battle alone. You're better than you think you are. You can learn the skills necessary to succeed, and get help, because we're out here and we exist to help you. So there you go.
I love it. Thanks so much for being on the show, Frank. Like Frank mentioned, if you want to connect with myself or Frank, absolutely do that. When you're working with WhiteGlove, you get access to Frank. We've partnered with him for many, many years, and it's always enjoyable, and I always learn something talking to you. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Brad. Take care.
Don't miss any episode of Be Advised Leading with Value. I mean, where else are you going to hear discussions of cheesecake, dripping till the rapture, Harry Potter? Seriously. So follow or subscribe to this podcast. And of course, please rate, review, and share.